Awaken to your truth that you are the I Am presence in harmony with the divine. You are consciousness beyond what the body and mind identify. This is Moment to Moment. Host Lynda Hope will remind and enlighten you to know your divine nature. You were born into the body already aware, but forgot it as you expanded your sense of identity, ego mind, pattern behaviors, and habits. Stop sleepwalking and wake up to your timeless, eternal, formless self. Now, your host of Moment to Moment, Lynda Hope.
Welcome, namaste to Moment. I'm your host, Lynda Hope, and we have an exciting show for you. I have a special guest who has inspired me. I have studied with her, I've been in her presence, and she is truly a master of consciousness. And I just hope that you can be present with us for 60 minutes. 60 minutes. That, of course, time is an illusion, but let's talk about what it means now in this moment to be fully here now, because this is the present. The present is a gift to you to wake up without distraction. If you need to turn off your cell phones, turn off the computer, unless you're listening to this voice right now. And if you are aware, you are also aware not only of the voice, but of the space between the voice. This is a stillness that's always here, a stillness of presence where this space, this voice is flowing. This is a space that you are, the I Am presence. And to acknowledge that, to fully know that, is your gift. That is the higher consciousness that we are. And a lot of us believe ourselves to be a person with an identity, with states of mind, with a pattern behavior. That's all. One believes themselves to be living a life on a very horizontal plane of life, death, cycle. And some believing that's it. This is it. We're born, we live this life, and then we die. Moment to Moment is here to awaken you to something even more grand, even greater, even more eternal than you think you are. Breaking the patterns of your behavior, more so realizing that you are patterned and that you do have a predisposed idea or a habitual way of thinking, an identity that keeps you trapped in this eternal karmic wheel of life, death cycle, instead of realizing the nature, divine nature of your existence. And so we're going to take a short break just to honor our sponsors, because I can't wait to introduce Sage and for you to really hear who you really are. We'll take this short break. Stay with us.
Want to keep up with the latest at the station? How about catch up on your favorite shows on the go? Download the free WLTK-DB mobile app on the App Store and Google Play. Watch, listen, and shop right from the palm of your hand. The WLTK-DB mobile app. The truth is here and now. Get yours today.
Welcome back to Moment to Moment. I am your host, Lynda Hope, and I'm so happy that you are still here now, present. And this conversation is all about presence. And my teacher, Sage, has remembered herself as a self-actualized divine one. She is a prominent teacher of self-realization and metaphysical living. Over the last few decades, she shared this divine one knowledge around the world on a body, mind, spirit expo circuit, all the while presenting many workshops. She is well-known and respected teacher, lecturer, and speaker. Sage's divine gifts and passion immediately assists others so they too can integrate and remember their self-actualized divine one. The state of being one and higher truth teachings are undeniably experienced when you work with Sage. Sage's teachings focus on the dissolution of the egoic mind, primal imprint, patterning, states of mind, ending the karmic wheel of the life-death cycle, and how one experiences the self-actualization integration process. Sage is honored to share the highest teachings to the awakened one belonging to the world of enlightenment. So I want to bring Sage here with us today and tonight and wherever you are hearing us in the world. Hi, Sage.
Aloha. Hi, Lynda. Or
Aloha.
Hope, as I love to call it. Aloha.
Thank you. Thank you. So welcome. We'd love to have you share with us your journey of self-actualization a little bit, and then we're going to talk about, I think, a very hot topic right now. So yes, please tell us, how did you begin this journey? Or if you can call it a journey.
Yeah. I lost my sister February 26, 1996, and it was the beginning of this journey. Soon after that, I met my first teacher who spent 12 years working one-on-one with me. There was a group of 4 of us that ended up being with her consistently for 12 years. And as she was working with us, she taught me the laws of creating your reality, the law of third dimension. She worked me through my erroneous beliefs. She showed me that my mind triggered when something was said to me, that it had a particular, that word had a particular meaning to me, that it dated me back to something that had happened to me. She showed me that in the beginning stages, this being an illusory world, she showed me how to work through my egoic self to get to a place where I could finally hear, without being triggered, the truth, which is Brahman truth. Up until then, and so she spent 12 years really working with me, as we all must do. It's that journey, what they call to self-inquiry. We need that step of self-inquiry to be able to look within. What I find is that many people are very attracted to this work, but they really don't want to see themselves. If you show them themselves, if the mirror is too bright or too strong for them, they go back to what they've been doing, because it's very threatening to the egoic mind. At that point, I met my second teacher, and she said to me, you need to forget everything you've learned from your first teacher, because this journey beyond the egoic mind into the world of enlightenment, the world of self-realization, is simply letting go of all your beliefs, letting go, dropping all your thoughts, dropping all your conceptions, your concepts, your perceptions, and your personal I. As your personal I integrates into the oneness, the simple part of self-realization is this. Once you remember that the separation never occurred, that is self-realized. Remembering
Yes.
the separation never occurred.
And that separation, tell the viewers what that means.
Well, the egoic mind believes in separation through four concepts. It believes that it's separated from source, from Brahman, that you were on the outside looking now at Brahman, you were now separate. Primal imprint in that moment formed. This was eons ago, and this is before you were in form. This is when you are still remembering self as beginningless, endless, formless, single, a state of being, knowledge, and bliss. In that moment of primal imprint forming, consciousness fell. And that began on the cycle of the life-death cycle, the karmic wheel. Each incarnation you come in with the states of mind that are what formed and consist of primal imprint. And in that moment, when that occurred, you bring them with you. You've brought them with you. Here you are now with them, not from this lifetime or this incarnation, but from all the way back to the beginning when primal imprint you believed formed, because you believed the very first concept that separation happened, that it occurred, and it never did. Your journey is to remember the separation never occurred.
And so when we think about that, we can't really think, we can't really use our minds because our mind will not understand this, correct?
Correct. You cannot, not only can you not use your mind, but your mind would not understand or take in to be true 95% of these teachings. It would reject it because the ego is so threatened, first of being annihilated, and secondly of having to either lose something, have something taken, or give a part of itself away in order to survive. The ego is not going to allow you to hear this. So this work is done in order to actually, when we drop in concepts and we're understanding the perceptions we're seeing are only based on the egoic mind, and it's the illusory world we're seeing, it's the states of mind is what we want to focus on. We want to really understand that states of mind form as it did in primal imprint. That's what primal imprint, the definition of it is, states of mind. As it formed, it started overlaying, superimposing what we call transparency. And then it continued to form and continued to lay over an experience. And it was seen through that laying over, that superimposing or the superimposition of the egoic mind through those states of mind. Let me say it in a different way, because that was a mouthful. A state of mind is what a person calls a feeling. And it's called a state of mind because that feeling, something happens, you have a reaction, a state of mind, a feeling about it, but it's occurring in your mind. So a state of mind joins with another state of mind and another, and it forms what we call a pattern. So a pattern is not psychological. It's not a psychological term. A pattern is what sage, what I am referring to as the egoic mind forming. So 100% of your egoic mind, 100% is 100% patterned. It is a conglomeration of states of mind that superimpose over an experience each and every time until the states of mind are dissolved. And you see through the states of mind the perception of what the ego, how it wants you to see it, even if it's painful.
Can you give a example of what that would be like in a way that our listeners can sort of understand through an example?
Yes, or an example of patterning, is that what you're asking?
Right, a superimposed, an example of somebody who would superimpose on a situation. Let's say, a situation occurs where somebody calls you up that you haven't talked to in a while, and that kind of thing, where you
Okay.
would use an example.
All right, I'm going to make this up, and I'm going to give a very, very, very simple example.
Yeah.
Now remember, the only reality, there's only one reality, and that's Brahman reality. That's love. The vibration, there's only one vibration. So the one vibration, Brahman vibration, the one vibration is love. So here you are Let's say there's a small little boy that's born, and as he's growing up in the family, he sees the father being the moneymaker. He sees the father keeping control of the money and only doling out to the penny what the mother would need to buy groceries for the family unit. This little boy sees the mother as always scrimping and saving and trying to please the husband. So she's always very frugal with the money and very afraid that if she doesn't have enough, she won't be able to feed her family. So she's very fearful about money. Father makes the money. Father keeps the money, protects it, hoards it out, loans it, just gives it out, doles it out. He's very much in control of money and is always saying, this is my money and this is my family and you'll do what I say. Now, I think a lot of people, if not to yourself, you know people who grew up in situations like this.
Yes.
So the little boy grows up and he starts to make a good living. He marries somebody who is making more money than he is. In this example of patterning, what ends up happening is his wife starts saying to him, I'm the one who makes the money. I'm the breadwinner in this family. What you do is nice, but it doesn't compare to what I'm doing. The little boy starts feeling very fearful because what he does is he sees his wife as patterning the father with the belief system that his wife is always controlling the money. She's always doling out a little bit for this, a little bit for that, whatever he needs. And he starts to pattern himself as his mother, always fearful that there won't be enough money. So this dynamic starts within this family with he and his wife based on what he experienced with his father and mother. Now, his wife says to him, gosh forbid I ever die. God forbid I ever die, because I don't want any other woman to come along and take my money that I've been making and spend it, have you spend it all on her and she gets the use of all my money. It's my money. So as the story goes, she crosses many years before he does. And she's made so much money that they become very wealthy. So she now inherits, of course, it's his wife. She inherits this money. This little boy inherits the money of the wife that she's made that was their money. And now the husband's afraid to spend it because all he can hear is, it's not my money. It's not my money. It's not my money. And panic starts. Anxiety starts to occur in this man. He starts having anxiety attacks and on and on and on. You can see how the story goes. 2 years later, 5 years later, he wants to buy something. He's so afraid to go into that money because he doesn't think it's his. He's patterned to believe it's hers and it doesn't belong to him, even though she's long gone. And if he has to spend something, he has to take anxiety medicine because he gets so anxious about it. All of this, whatever anybody is going through in their life, whatever the dynamic is, whatever the example is because it's because the egoic mind is patterned. Otherwise, we would just simply be in love.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Yes, it's exactly what I was raised. Lynda Hope was raised with a father that was all in control of the money, and the mother was being doled out the money and using it and feeling a little restricted, with that and having to hoard it. Yes, because she wasn't making the money. So I'm sure that's as an example. A lot of people feel that way. But a lot of it is also they don't realize they're repeating that pattern. Would you say that many people don't even know that is a pattern or even know about patterning?
I agree with you. Well, two things, because psychology talks about patterning is in a different way than this higher conscious work is. They're thinking it's psychological. I'm not talking psychologically. I'm saying 100% of your egoic mind. This is not the intellect or the part of the mind that has to figure out how to bake a cake, but it's the part of the mind that how it sees things, how it interprets, what it senses, what it feels, what it smells, what it tastes. That part of the mind is 100% patterned and always will be. And those states of mind for that patterning are what bring you back in on the karmic wheel of the life-death cycle. You will come back in for another reincarnation. We don't need to know what our past history was. We don't need to know what our past life was. We don't need, in all due respect, need to know what the Akashic records say. We don't need to know what our EMDR says. We don't need any of that. If we really truly want to step off the karmic wheel and actualize and move consciousness beyond the egoic mind, we're going to have to dissolve its mind
Yes,
that are
yes, you broke up
experienced
a
in
little
the
bit
mind
there.
and superimpose.
Hmm. So, yeah, it's a little weak connection, Sage. So some of the words we didn't hear. Can you repeat the last few sentences that you said? Do you remember
Okay.
it?
I was saying that, and none of this is by memory. So if we don't understand how we're patterned, we're going to come back in on another life death cycle. We're going to come back in. We need to really do the self-inquiry. I'm not showing. We need to do the self-inquiry. We need to understand what the states of mind are, and we need to dissolve those states of mind so we're not superimposing on an experience with the states of mind. So in other words, the minute you have a reaction to anything, you have a thought, there's some interest in that thought. The moment you have a reaction to that thought, you're patterning. If you don't understand that and you don't understand how to move beyond that, you'll just automatically come back in on another life death cycle because the reaction is a state of mind.
Yes. So,
Did that make sense?
yes. Oh, perfect. Yes. I would like the viewers to hear that again, because a lot of viewers believe that their thought, sometimes they don't even see their thoughts. It is so fast, but a thought comes, a reaction happens, and an action is done, or emotion is felt, feeling is felt, and they don't even know that to be their pattern. So from a very basic standpoint, we have to say, can you put a little space or witness quality to the thought? Can you at least see that you are having a thought? Can you witness that thought and know that that's not who you are? I think there are certain fundamental touch points that we need to, maybe for listeners who are not familiar with this. What would you say? Where would you say is the entering point? I use the present moment. I use the now as the entering point to the state of stillness that we all are. So, what would you recommend for our listeners?
I agree with you. I hope I agree with you 100%. However, I don't think people really even, I didn't understand what that really meant. So the way I broke it down was look for a reaction. Go about your day, but the moment you have a reaction to something, one reaction, if it's anything other than love, then you're patterning. In that moment, stop. What was the thought? What was the experience? What's the feeling about that experience? That's the reaction. And then name the feeling. Look within. What did that trigger in you? Go deeply. Don't just keep superficially up there. Go deeply. Because what you'll find is that what you're experiencing now, that state of mind now, you have felt your entire life, even in this incarnation, from the get-go. Once it was instituted and got lit up, that state of mind repetitively repeats itself no matter what is happening in the outer world. All examples can change. People change from a man to a woman. It doesn't look the same. It's a different example. Maybe you're having car trouble. Maybe you're having an next door neighbor yelling at you. Maybe your boss at work is too hard on you. It doesn't matter what the example is. It's the fact that that state of mind repetitively repeats. That, if anything, is what's creating your reality. Your superimposing is creating your reality based on the way you're perceiving something versus seeing it differently beyond the egoic mind. So
Right, not
how would an
attaching.
enlightened
Yeah. Mhm. I'm
how
sorry.
would an enlightened one see it? How would an
Mhm.
enlightened one see it versus how would someone who still is unhealed, got lots of wounds, who's been doing their work, which is yay, hallelujah, but they're still wounded, they're still reacting. Something is said, they get triggered, they're lost in that. The enlightened one would just sit in absolute peace. If it wasn't appropriate or it wasn't in the healthiest way, they would just remove themselves. they wouldn't have a reaction to it.
Right.
They wouldn't lose their present moment. They wouldn't lose their present moment. So what takes you out of the presence is when you get triggered.
Mm. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that going into the Thanksgiving season, I would love to use this Thanksgiving. Yeah, right. In 2 days, we're going to experience Thanksgiving with family and friends. Some of us maybe put at the kiddie table. That'll bring up some ideas of, oh, okay, here I am again being treated like a little kid, having to sit at the kiddie table, or
Yep.
having to have the dark meat instead of the white meat, because there's not enough white meat. Or whatever that is, or I'm going to see my uncle or aunt who has, or say this, and oh, this is what's going to happen. I can tell you exactly what's going to happen because they have it played out in their mind already, the whole scenario going into.
They're doing that already.
Yeah.
Superimposing. Yep.
Right.
Onto a benign reality, they're superimposing their states of mind on it and the reality of the creation of what they're going to experience. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's going to happen.
If you're sick and tired of doing that, and you think you've healed something, and yet it pops up again through another example, another situation, maybe completely different. If you're sick and tired, you're going to have to spend some time and look at your mind and see why and how your mind is superimposing, thus experiencing the same reality over and over. It's not happening to you, folks. It's happening through you, because of you, because your mind is 100% patterned.
Yes. I think a great exercise that when I sat with you the first time I met you at this retreat in Hawaii, we had a beautiful time together, and you said, I want you to write about who your mother is. I want you to write down who your mother, and I want you to write about you're also your dad, you said the negative and positives of each one. I remember that.
Yeah.
And then, and you said in most cases, you are 100% patterned. You are 100% patterning your mother, and you are 100% patterning your father. And
you're talking about yourself.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
you're not talking about your mother or your father.
No, I am this. Right. So, and it was perfect because at that point, I really didn't know patterning. I didn't know that concept of that. And, but I did know, I was at least aware before that, that there were many thoughts I had that I would say, boy, that's so much like my father or my mother. I would see the voices I would hear the voices in my head. And I would say, that sounds just like my father. And I would see the tapes. It was like a continuous tape going on that I was very aware of. And I think when people begin to be aware that they can see it and they can see, oh my goodness, that's the same thought I had before. And I know what's coming when I think about that. They start to understand from a deeper place that they're generating 70,000 thoughts a day. I understand that it seems to be repeated the day before and the day before and the day before that. They're not new thoughts, would you say?
Absolutely. What you're experiencing in this incarnation, you've experienced all the way back to primal imprint. Nothing is new except people's faces change and their names change, examples change, but nothing's new. You're living in Groundhog's Day.
That's why I like the movie so much. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. And for most people, that's okay. So here's the caveat. You cannot be afraid to look and be shown your mind. You have to want to see it more than you're afraid to see it. If you're afraid to see it, maybe next incarnation. If you're really wanting to see it, then you'll be able to dissolve the egoic mind and free the mind. And that's actualization.
Yes.
I don't look at things as if you're doing it to me or that there's a you. There's no two in this anymore for Sage. There's only one, which is Brahman. So I look at it. I am Brahman looking at. How does Brahman see it? What would Brahman say about it? What's the experience? what's another way I can love? Show me one more way I can love. Love, 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 love. Everything is love. Oh, you just beat somebody up? That's even love too. I saw your eyes, Lynda.
No, beat somebody up, not physically. We're talking. You're not talking physically. We're
Well,
talking.
it could be physical. That was a really bad. What I love to say, tough example, but what I love to say to people is, I love Trump, and I love Hitler. And people are shocked, and they go, I don't like you anymore. You like Trump, you're not my friend anymore. And I look at them and I say, okay, but how can we get to the place of being actualized and fully awaken if we're going to like some and not like others? Love is the awakening. We are awakening in the present moment to love, returning to love. Love is all there is.
Yes. Well, we're not talking about from the ego, from the identity or the person, because love is, as the person, is very conditional, wouldn't you say? Most of us
Absolutely.
will say, hey, I love you only if you would do this for me. Well, they don't say that out loud, but they're thinking it, or subconsciously aware that if you do it this way, the way I like you to do it, then maybe I'll love you. Otherwise, I may not. And that's so fickle. And I see it over and over and over again, how,
100%.
right? So it has to be from the place of the eternal one, where it just flows, and that's who you are, and you can't help but be love and express it in the fullness without any ties to the personal agenda or the self-interest that love seems to
Exactly. Well
have.
said. And then let's bring it back to, again, if the listeners hear nothing else but this, if there's bringing it back to that agenda, that personal agenda would be a reaction. So the indicator is, how do I know if I'm patterning? If you have a reaction, if you have anything other than experiencing love, then you're patterning. No exception.
Yes. And I would say a one thing that I'm very aware of is how people tend to talk about other people behind their back. And I'll use that as an example. If people out there listening via the podcast or on Facebook, be aware that when you start talking about other people, that you're definitely in your egoic mind, because you wouldn't want to be talking about other people because you're not outside yourself. There's no other in this place of love. We're all love. And so whatever you're saying, mostly then it's negative. I didn't like what this person said, blah, 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 blah. What you're doing is you're really talking about yourself. You just said things that you don't like in yourself because you're seeing it. And so the awareness of, oh, wait a second, if I didn't like that about that other person and I see it, that must mean that I don't like it in myself, in the
Exactly.
identity. Yeah.
Yes, very good. I love that. And I love the way you very simply put it. When we talk about self-realization, now remember, everybody comes in self-realized. There isn't, because everybody is Brahman, whether they remember that or not. And Brahman is the Sanskrit word that sage uses for God. So use whatever word you want. Sage uses Brahman, it's Sanskrit. As you come in as Brahman, as everything is Brahman, because the separation never occurred, then there's not two. There's only one. So if you're thinking about anything being as two, then you're thinking in separation. Inside, outside, my mind, my heart, all that is based under the concepts of two or more. If you're speaking about another person, like you were just for, there aren't two people. In the highest consciousness, in the awakened, there's only one, and that's Brahman. Speaking about another, then you have to be speaking about yourself. So whatever you say about another, you're always saying about yourself, even if you don't know it, negatively or.
Did you say positively? Because I think you broke up too. Negative or positively, right? Yeah. The internet's a little wonky. But yes, to recap, because
Yes,
I'm not hearing you.
negatively,
Yeah.
or I live in my.
Yeah, you live in an RV, so right. So the place may be having some internet
Yeah,
issues. Yeah, yeah.
it could.
But
I'm living in my RV. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
that's great. So yeah, negatively and positively, because right, because in duality, as people, we tend to believe ourselves to be people living in duality. So we're always in a state of that, right, wrong, judgment, victimhood, whatever the ego mind wants to do at the time. We don't know because it's very fickle, or would say a little bit crazy. So if we are
Mhm.
aware that that's where we are, in the 3D, then we have to be very alert and awake to the fact that that is the play, that is the illusion, that is our dream that we're experiencing. And I think it was it you that said about the projection on the screen of reality
Yep.
where we, right? That the screen itself is just the screen.
Yep.
So the awareness is really, talk about that a little bit, that's our awareness, correct? Screen.
Yes. And if you asked a question, there was a blank. I missed it. But yes, the screen. The screen is what
Yes.
is, and then
Mhm.
whatever is superimposed on top of the screen is not real. It's the projection from the egoic mind. There is something, but how do I know this is my mind? Let me give you a definition of duality, and then you can start to apply this and see if it makes any difference to you. The definition of duality is, I started to say it earlier, separation is the first component. That you separated from source. It's from Brahman, which you never did. But that began the journey into believing you were separate. The second component is comparison. Your mind, what the egoic mind does is it compares constantly. When you're in duality thinking and you're patterning, you're always comparing. Do I like this? Do I like that? This is the me. She did this. I don't do that. They did this. And that the defensiveness and the rationalization all springs from that. The
Mhm.
third component is judgment. You judge something, as you said earlier, right or wrong, good or bad. This is good. This is wrong. She shouldn't do that. He can't. That's not good. That's wrong. And the fourth component is attaching a value or a meaning. So when one of those components is present, attachment, judgment, comparison, or separation, all of them are present. They happen so fast, you can't catch it. By the time you're judging something, you've separated, you've believe there's more than one, you believe there's an outer world, somebody doing something to you, you've compared, you've judged, and now you've attached a value or meaning. You're patterned. You're not seeing correctly. You're not seeing what's really happening.
Right. And that's why you say, you love Trump, you love everything, everybody, God is, we are that, and everything is that, and there is no
Yes,
separation. So if we were to not love everyone as ourselves, and it's very much in the
yes,
scriptures too, then we're denying our divine oneness that we are. And that's where the judgment, where the person now says, I'm separate from that. I can't understand how you could have that opinion, which is the world
yes,
is full of right now. A lot of
yep,
opinions. I mean,
yes,
it's so separated that if
yep,
people didn't get it by now, I mean, it's so crazy out there in the world when we look outside ourselves, right? That, is there got to be something better than this, guys? This is really insane. So, yeah, what do you
yep.
have to say about
And
that?
what you're doing is you just define duality over and over and over and over. You're defining separation, comparison, judgment, and attaching a value or meaning. Another
Yes,
truth is this. Not only didn't you ever leave Brahman, the separation never occurred. There's not two. There is no outer world
right.
except what the mind, the egoic mind, projects. as the egoic mind is making the outer world. It's the dream from the mind that's dreaming something in the outer world being separate from you. It's all a dream. Since we never left, now this is a big one, and I even hesitate bringing this into this talk, but since we never ever left, because the separation never occurred, there is only one soul, and that's Brahman's soul, and everything is that. Since we never left, then this must be an illusory world. Planet Earth is an illusion as well, versus Mars, versus Venus. It's all illusion. It's all the dream of the dreamer, which is Brahman having the dream through the localization into each and every, what people would perceive as their personal I, their separate self. So there's 8.7 billion separate selves only in the dream. The reality is there's only one, and that's Brahman, and Brahman never left itself.
And a lot of people are going to go, well, it's time to get off the show right now. I don't, I can't handle this. I can't get the truth. What is that movie? You can't handle the truth. And that's, but that in itself is, I think, exciting. It's exciting to know that. I mean, there's a deeper knowing that everybody can understand. I would say when you say love is one of those terms, and also it carries a lot of baggage. Also from the egoic standpoint, from the personal view, love, because it's intangible. It's something, and it's so is Brahman. Brahman is intangible. It's formless, and it is you, but the obvious can't be seen by the egoic mind chatter from the states of mind and identity. We are separating ourselves out because of the distraction that all of that causes. It covers up. It's sort of like the cloud covering the sun. The sun is still there. We just don't see the sun because of the cloud.
Well, so well said,
right?
Lynda Hope.
So it's like covering. I love it when you cover the sun, even with your nail, with your thumb, you could cover the sun. It's just so, and it's just so obvious when you know yourself to be that everything else is sort of the play. I see it as a play. I see it as a humorous play. And that it unfolds in this way so that you can further deepen your consciousness. Would you say that
Yes,
that's the play?
and it's a good point. It's a good point you brought up, because if I'd have heard me or you 20 years ago, I'd have said, never mind. Don't forget that even though these seeds are being planted right now, and you may not understand even more than we do, but if you don't, that you can grow into it. It's not that difficult, and what took me 20 years could only take you 2 weeks. So if you have any interest in expanding your consciousness and growing further, then there are no better teachings than the Vedanta teachings, because they go to the heart of Brahman. They go to the heart of truth, capital, not sage's truth, but capital T truth. They'll go to the heart of their non-dual teachings, and that's where you're going to learn. Follow that path, whoever it's through, me or Hope or anywhere else. Follow non-dual teachings. They're the highest teachings, most awake teachings on the planet.
Yes, and what I find exciting is to realize first thing in the morning, and I would say we've got 15 minutes left to maybe bring in some practical tips that maybe people can start to evolve in this place of presence. Would you say that first thing in the morning would be before you even put your feet on the floor, to remember that you are divine presence, that's who you are, even if it doesn't, even if it's a mental construct or a concept, just to put that seed in there, and then take a breath. What would you recommend for our listeners?
God, and you're asking great questions. Hope, I'm so honored to be on the show, and that I'm so grateful to you for offering this to people. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for being.
I love your question, because what do you do? Where do you start? What do you do? Yes, always remind yourself, Do I want to know myself other than my personal I? Do I want to know myself as Brahman? Am I ready? And what part of me is ready to know myself? Do I want to move beyond the struggle? Do I really want to find that eternal bliss? If you can answer yes, and then 5 minutes later you go, never mind, I just want to get through the day. Okay, but in that 5 minutes, you were on a quest to remember yourself as Brahman in that eternal bliss. Just moment by moment, ask yourself, what do I really want? What's my purpose for this incarnation? Is it just to get by? Is it just the family? Or do I want more? What does my soul want? Keep asking yourself, going within and asking yourself.
Because the soul wants to remember itself. You are self-actualized, so you're remembering yourself, right? And it's a remembering that awakens you. Mm-hmm.
And what is that self?
You.
Brahman.
Brahman.
Brahman. The only
That's
thing
all.
that is separation never did occur. Once you get that concept and that separation exists and you really get it, what else is there?
There isn't anything.
You're awakened.
And that's the purpose. I mean, it's, people in general, when we think of ourselves as people, individualized, we search and search and search and search. Some, I believe, sort of settle for this personhood, identity, and states of mind, and the life is a bitch and then you die kind of idea. That's one level of sleepness, of unconsciousness. But then there's the other level where there's a seeker. There's somebody says, well, there's something greater than this out there. I don't believe that that's all there is. And there again, there's the belief system that is also an illusion. But then people start to ask questions. Like you say, you ask questions, and then where do I find the answers? Well, I love the one from St. Francis of Assisi that says, whatever you're seeking, you're already seeking from that place. Whatever that place you're seeking is already from where you are seeking from. And that sort of brings you back to that pointing of looking inside instead of trying to find the answers outside yourself. Would you say? We're a little bit delayed in the internet thing here, but so I'll continue to talk until we meet up here in the energy field. We sync up. So the essence of ourselves as consciousness is that awakened knowing that we are here now, present, and there's no yesterday. The memories can take place within this now, but the last minute has gone, and the next minute is a potential, right? And that is the next moment, but we're always now. So now we have two stages. There we go. Hello, welcome back.
Thank you. Oh gosh, I know. I never know. It's usually pretty good internet, but here, this is divinely perfect. It's the way it's supposed to be.
It is. That's right. That's right. Well, thank you. So what were you commenting on? I'm trying to remember this. The past moment is gone. I don't remember.
Well, we were talking about what people would do in the morning when they wake up, and how that, and not to forget, this is the journey. You're already Brahman. You never left Brahman. You've never done anything wrong. There's no lessons you have to learn. The only thing is to remember Brahman self. And in that experience, however that plays out, however you get there, chop wood, carry water, take care of the kids, take care of the spouse, take care of the girlfriend, the boyfriend, doesn't matter, go to work, have fun, but remember yourself as Brahman.
Yes. And that also gives you a sense of whoever you come in contact with, the love, whatever the love that you shine is reflected back to you. And the proof of your so-called life, even though we're not really living life, we are life. The so-called life is reflected. We're moving through a beautiful unfolding, and a person is smiling back at you because you are smiling out there and shining your light, and they're shining it back. So it becomes very effortless, would you say, as you develop as you continue to grow in awareness of that.
It's what I call beyond synchronicity and beyond. When you are back in that flow, I liken it to flying with the hawks and the eagles. I fly so high, flying so high that, and there aren't many, so there's not people bumping into each other. There's not as many want to fly that high, but we have just precise vision. So when we come down on something, when we land, we're there for a purpose. We're there to help others remember, to be of service, to remember that all there is love and light. Love, Brahman. You know, if you have a charge on the word love, you might want to, if you have a charge on the word God or Brahman, you might want to look at that. But remember, if you get triggered, you're patterning. Your mind is at play. You're in your ego.
Yeah, so that's even a awareness that's amazing, because most of us individuals that are out there, I'm sure you are hearing my words and Sage's words when we say that if you find difficulty on a daily basis, you may want to stop and look at it. And maybe you can gain some insight into your patterns by looking at the situation and saying, how can I stop repeating that same kind of scenario? Some people find it in relationships, right? We talk about people finding a person we think is different than the last person we dated, and all they are is somebody in a different physical form, but the same personality with the same, right, relationship. Is like, why can't I stop with the bad boys? Or why am I always being diminished by people? Or why do I, find myself a victim all the time? Well, that's a big one. That's a big one.
That's a big one. But you have to remember, this is the way Atona taught me. She said, she would say, "Hi, Sage." She said, "Tell me what's going on in your outer world." Well, I knew after a while. It didn't take long for me to figure out she was tricking me. What she wanted to know was what I was thinking, what was going on with me, what was it mirroring to me. I'm talking about myself. But I'd say, well, this person and that person and this person. And then I got screwed over again. And she'd look at me and she'd say, you're talking about yourself. Victim and victimizer are the same one person. There is only one, so that would have to be you. Now, this, I've seen many people run to the hills. If they have to give up their victim, I am really inviting you to not run so fast to the hills, but to take a look at what it means to you. What have you been getting out of seeing yourself as the victim? How much longer do you need to see the outer world victimizing you? Or someone, someplace, some experience doing one more time to you before you can really look at yourself and go, why am I choosing this experience? I'm having it. It must be what I want. What am I trying to learn from it?
Yes. And then I remember so well, it feels like lifetimes ago, but I believe it was only in this lifetime, where I was a wonderful victim. Lynda was a wonderful victim and saw all my family members treating me like a victim and reflecting back to me in such a strong way that I remember Lynda's mind going, wait, he's trying to make me feel like a victim. And it didn't dawn on me that I was the victim until I started learning and developing and looking at my ego mind, looking at the ego. And Lynda loved looking at the ego because it was so complex. It was a wonderful thing to look at when you could observe it from a distance and not attach yourself to it, because that's the only way you can really view anything, is not attaching yourself to the thought or to the, right? And then you can view it and say, wow, look at you again. Look at you, and you're aware of it and you're not triggered anymore.
I think you said earlier, why am I the victim? And I think you're meaning to say, why am I the victimizer?
Yeah. True. That's right.
That could be another tell for somebody that practice this. The next time you want to say, look what was done to me, you might want to reverse it and say, why did I do this to me?
Oh, yes.
Reverse it. So you stop looking at yourself as the victim. You stop looking at yourself as the victim, and you start seeing yourself as Brahman. And what is it? What's state of mind? Why am I superimposing and overlaying again on this experience? Why do I need to feel this? Do the self-inquiry.
Yes. And I realized early when I was that way, when my ego was really running the show, Lynda's show, that I would make allowances for it. I would find myself saying, well, it's good. It helps Lynda sing. It helps Lynda get in front of an audience. And then I would hear people, when I would talk about the ego, they say, well, it's a good thing to have. You have to have a little bit of an ego because it brings out presence in you and and it makes allowances for it. And then, and I remember reading Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now, and looking at A New Earth, and it said, don't believe the ego is your friend. And I was so excited to see that, because Lynda was always trying to make sense of her ego as a performer, as this, as that, and identity, forming an identity around that ego, very strong. And then when I saw that, I went, it's not your friend. I went, yes, yay. I finally realized it. It was so good. So we hope that you're listening out there. We have 4 minutes left, and we'd like to have a closing remark from you, Sage. It just went so fast. I know that people can listen to us also on momenttomoment.podbean.com, and also on Facebook and on Spotify. Go to Moment to Moment. You'll see this show again. And this will take a few times to listen, this particular show for sure, because it's not easily understood. Again, we're not talking from the mind. We're talking from the heart. We're talking from the place of stillness within that knows this to be your truth, that you can hear it openly and just allow the words to inform you and inform your heart. And you can see Sage's number if you're just listening and not seeing it on screen. Sage, you can reach her at 828-719-6097, or her email is sage_smoke@live.com. So Sage, please, would you give us a closing statement if possible?
Yes. I would like to say, you're on the path. Don't wait. Why not make it this incarnation? Why not get off the life-death cycle in this incarnation? Don't wait for the next one. There's so much more beyond this. Going back to remembering self, capital S, self is Brahman. It doesn't get any better than that. There's nothing more grander than that. And I invite each and every one of me, as everyone is me, there's only one, and I'm it, to remember and awaken that you're already actualized.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And may this knowing permeate in a deep place. And when you end this show, just sit. Everyone just sit in silence and stillness and breathe into these words that are pointing your way to the divine presence that you are, and know that to be your truth. And we are so grateful for your time, for your presence, and for your love in a world that needs love in a great degree. But we already are love. I guess we could really say from the deeper place that we are perfect, and everything is just the way it should be, right? Yeah. Nothing to learn here, folks. Just be it.
It's just remembering it.
Just remember. Exactly. All right, Sage,
Right.
thank you, thank you,
Understand the concept
Yes.
of your...
Understand again. Would you repeat that? You broke up a little bit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One love.
One love. One love.
I was saying yes. Just understand the construct of your mind. One love. Aloha.
Yes.
Happy
Aloha.
holiday.
Happy holiday. Happy Thanksgiving to all, and so much love. We'll see you next Tuesday on Moment to Moment. I'm Lynda Hope.
Happy now.
The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTK-DB.com.